Ocean Story is with you, and I have news stories that touch me. My friend betrayed our friendship because of her stupid behavior. From a very early age, I was friends with my friend Elizabeth. We went to kindergarten together, then went to school and college together. When we were 14 years old with Elizabeth, her behavior started to change a little bit, not for the better. All my life I had been on good terms with Elizabeth's parents because we often went to each other's houses for sleepovers. My parents were also on good terms with my friend's parents. Elizabeth and I were like two sisters who knew each other very well. When we were at school, Elizabeth started to like being the center of attention, so she started to make up a lot of things and play pranks on others. I told her not to do that. Elizabeth kept saying that it was just a joke and it was not serious. It all came to a head when Elizabeth threw away my biology project, which I had been doing for 3 months. We were supposed to bring our projects and present them in class. I started looking in my box for a small greenhouse that I had created, and there were living organisms, but I couldn't find anything. The teacher gave me an unsatisfactory grade and told me to make a project. After the lesson, Elizabeth laughed at me a lot with her other friends because Elizabeth stole my project and left it somewhere on the street. Since then, our relationship has only gotten worse. Over the years, I began to communicate less with Elizabeth. Even after high school, her behavior did not change, and she continued to ruin other people's lives. The last straw in my friendship with Elizabeth was when she deceived my parents. I went to my other friend's house for a few days without telling my dad. Our decision to go out was very sudden, so there was no time to call my mom or dad. Elizabeth was with us, but there was no place for her to go with us. I asked Elizabeth to tell my parents about my trip with my friend. Elizabeth must have been offended and decided to take revenge. Elizabeth called my parents and told them that 2 guys had come to pick me up in a car and that I was happy to get in the car with them. After that, she did not see me and had no contact with me. My mother was shocked by this information and did not believe that I was capable of such a thing. When I returned home 3 days later, my dad and mom gave me a big scandal and forbade me to go out for 3 months. I barely managed to prove to them that I wasn't lying and that I was really going out with my friend, not the boys, because at that time I had just turned 18. After that moment, I broke off my friendship with Elizabeth forever. I wished with all my heart that something similar would happen in her life and she would realize what it's like to be a victim of someone else's jokes. I deleted Elizabeth's number from my phone. I didn't let her in the house when she came over. I explained to her parents that Elizabeth had treated me badly and they understood. 11 years have passed since then. Recently, I learned some details about my former friend's life. Elizabeth is now married for the 3rd time and has 2 children with her first husband. Elizabeth's current boyfriend does not love her very much and is only with her because of the children and social benefits. Elizabeth's first husband left her because she started stealing a lot of his money and lied about the purpose of their use. For example, Elizabeth would tell them that she was taking money to buy a coat, but at the same time she would go to a club and spend all the money on alcohol. Elizabeth's next husband did not even have time to marry her and left her after 7 months of relationship. Elizabeth started to seduce his best friend out of her boyfriend's sight. Elizabeth has been married to her new boyfriend for 3 years and is raising her 2 children almost alone. Also, Elizabeth can sometimes drink alcohol in front of her children and teach them obscene words. My sister told me that social services came to Elizabeth and threatened to take her children away from her, but Elizabeth made a lot of noise and everything stopped for a while. While I was listening to my sister's story, I had only 2 feelings: joy for what Elizabeth got for all her bad deeds, and I felt a little bit sorry for her because we used to be friends, and it's a shame to realize that Elizabeth's life has become so miserable. Elizabeth's parents do not support her, and she has to survive on her own. At one point, I even wanted to help Elizabeth, but I realized that if I were in her place, Elizabeth would just laugh at me. I didn't look for her and try to help her. Elizabeth is to blame for ruining her life with such stupid actions. Maybe someone will write that I am very cruel. Let it be so, but my ex-friend is to blame for everything. Jacob, I have a sister just like your friend. When I was 10 and she was 8, I often had to be punished by my parents. I think your friend is so stupid. That because Elizabeth wanted to be cool. She lost all of her friends who were close to her, until Elizabeth started humiliating them too. Easy popularity has ruined your friend. The moral question is whether you should help her. Maybe it wasn't a bad thing to do and help Elizabeth get a new life despite everything. But remembering how she treated you or other people, Elizabeth does not deserve help and should pay for her mistakes. Is it your fault that Elizabeth made fun of everyone? She started her life with lies and jokes. Now it's life's turn to make fun of Elizabeth. Don't blame yourself for your feelings. Michael, being betrayed by a close friend can be incredibly painful, especially when it involves lies and causes problems in your family. It is understandable that you decided to end your friendship with Elizabeth after all these incidents. It is also quite sad to hear that Elizabeth's life has taken such a difficult turn with several failed marriages, financial problems and problems with raising children, although it is quite natural to feel some sympathy for her. Given your history, it is important to remember that people are responsible for their actions and the consequences that follow. So it would have been your decision to interfere in Elizabeth's life. You had every right to distance yourself from the person, someone who has repeatedly harmed you in your relationship. Sometimes hard life lessons can be an opportunity for personal growth. It seems that you have learned from this experience. Ultimately, it is up to Elizabeth to decide how to change her life. You do not have to save Elizabeth from the consequences of her own actions if she wants to continue to live this badly. It is Elizabeth's decision alone and nothing more. Next story. My daughter had long hair all her life. Ella just told me that she is tired of wearing her hair like that. This was a big news for me. Ever since Ella's dad left our house, she had started to grow her hair long. My daughter is now 14 years old, and Ella is growing her hair out of 6. I have to help her with her hair care sometimes. Ella's reasons for wanting to cut her hair were very cool. At one school event, Ella met some children who had early stages of illnesses that required hair transplants. Also at their school, they talked about some opportunities to help people. Ella decided that it would be cool to cut her long hair and give it to people who really needed it. I was very surprised that Ella was willing to get rid of her hair so easily. Not all adults are willing to do such things for someone they don't know. I talked to my daughter several times to make sure that Ella would not come to me later and complain that she regretted her decision. 1 month after Ella told me about her wishes, I found out all the necessary information, and together with Ella, we went and donated our hair. Of course, after that I could not recognize my daughter. I had never seen Ella with a bob haircut. I can say that she looked very unusual. Some of my daughter's classmates could not recognize her when she came to school. Ella didn't really like having so much attention, but there is nothing else to be done, and her hair will grow back to its former shape for several years. I think my daughter has become more beautiful. I was proud to tell my friends what a cool daughter I had. Everything changed a little bit when my brother Daniel arrived. The last time he was in my house was 2 years ago. He, like me, had never seen Ella with short hair. Daniel arrived a bit unexpected. At that time, I was in the living room, and Ella was in her room. Daniel said hello to me, and I helped him put away the things he had to bring from my mom. My brother went to Ella's room to greet his favorite niece. However, when Daniel saw the new look of my daughter, he was shocked and thought that he was seeing my daughter's friend. He asked her, "Where is my niece Ella?" My daughter answered him, "Uncle, what are you doing? It's me, your niece." Daniel couldn't believe what he was seeing for a few minutes and thought he was being joked about. Eventually, we managed to explain to him that it was not a joke. My brother didn't choose his words carefully. When he expressed his surprise, when he saw the change in Ella's image, he said to me, "What have you done to my beautiful niece?" Ella used to look great and had cool long hair that I had never seen on anyone else. And now Ella looks like all the other girls. By the way, this hairstyle doesn't suit her at all, and Ella looks more like a boy than a girl. I told my brother to shut his stupid mouth because Ella started crying and asked me, "Mommy, do I really look bad with this hairstyle?" I tried to calm her down, but it was very difficult. Daniel and I left her room together. I yelled at my brother for allowing himself to say such disgusting words. Daniel said innocently, "I was just telling the truth to Ella." I told him that no one is interested in Daniel's truth. You just called my daughter ugly and said that Ella looks more like a boy than herself." Daniel started to prove to me that my daughter's previous hairstyle was hundreds of times better than this one. I asked Daniel not to say anything like that anymore and to leave my house. Daniel did not feel guilty and left my house feeling that he was right. I had to spend a lot of time calming my daughter down and proving to Ella that her hairstyle was great and not bad. After that, I received several messages from Daniel. He sent me old photos of Ella with long hair and wrote, "It used to suit her better." Even after I explained to him why my daughter removed her long hair, Daniel went on to say that this decision was rash and was ruining life for Ella. I blocked my brother and asked him not to come to my house if he is going to prove again that Ella looks better with her old hairstyle. My mom also supported me and yelled at Daniel for his stupid words because he really ruined my daughter's mood for a few weeks. Ella started to think she had made a mistake by donating her hair. I am incredibly angry with Daniel for making my daughter feel ugly to herself. 2 months have passed and Daniel has not apologized. My brother is a jerk and a moral fool. Henry, Ella made the decision to donate her hair to those. She did so in a thoughtful and compassionate way. It is commendable that she wanted to help others. Her new hairstyle should be a source of pride. After all, she did something selfless and good. Daniel's reaction was insensitive and offensive, especially in the presence of Ella. No one should make derogatory comments about someone's appearance, especially a family member to a young teenager. It is understandable that you were angry and upset with him because your brother deserved that reaction and should have kept his word. It is important for you to support Ella at this time and remind her of the positive impact her decision has on others. Her beauty comes from her good heart and actions, not just her hair. I hope that over time she will regain her confidence and Danielle will realize the importance of support and respect, especially towards her family, and he will apologize to Ella for his stupid behavior. I generally condemn any negative statements about someone's appearance. Daniel should have just asked about the changes in Ella's image and not said that she looks hideous. It's unheard of for someone to say that. Your daughter did something incredible and was willing to lose the most precious thing to her. And then Daniel comes along and says that Ella is a boy now, not a beautiful girl. I wonder how your brother would react if someone did that to his children, because no parent would tolerate such words towards their children. It's great that you're not the only one who condemned Daniel's actions and that your mom joined in. I'll assure you once again that you have to be careful with children and not say something stupid to them. Your daughter has been stressed twice when she lost her hair and when Daniel started saying that Ella is now disgusting. Your brother is really a jerk and should apologize to you and Ella. Now I want to tell a different story. My brother Benjamin married Sophia a year ago. Before her, my brother was in a relationship and now has 3 children of different ages. Charlotte is 8 years old, Mia is 8 years old, and Elijah is 5 years old. My brother has to work hard to support his family. This year, my girlfriend Amelia and I decided to go on vacation and invited my brother's family to come with us. I wanted to do something nice for Benjamin's birthday. Amelia and I were willing to pay half of the cost of their vacation. My wife and I don't have children, and we have a good income. Benjamin agreed to my offer. He took a 9-day vacation from his job. Our trip was not easy and had some problems. For example, when my brother's wife started helping the children pack, they started annoying Sophia by disobeying her and doing all sorts of stupid things. I realized that it is very difficult for children to control their emotions, especially when they are going on a trip for the first time in their lives. Sophia was very angry until the moment she arrived at the vacation destination because Charlotte and Mia behaved very badly on the bus and attracted a lot of attention from other people. During the whole trip, I could only hear Sophia trying to calm the children down. Even the fact that I was wearing headphones didn't help at all. Every day things were getting worse in my brother's family. More precisely, Sophia decided to take a break from the children and not take care of them all the time. I think it was a fair decision, but only partially. My brother worked very hard, and I wanted him to rest first and foremost. Benjamin and Sophia often argued about who should have the children. Sometimes they would take the children to the beach or to the pool. But there were times when I wanted to go for a walk with Benjamin in the evening. At that time, Sophia would interfere with our plans and say that she also wanted to relax, and the children were ruining the whole vacation for her. That's how the whole vacation went for me and my brother's family. The worst thing of all happened on the third day. Benjamin and I wanted to go to a local bar at 8 in the evening. Sophia found out about it and threw a tantrum right in front of me. She yelled at my brother for having to watch the kids on the beach for most of the day, while Benjamin was just lying on his deck chair drinking beer. And now that she has some time to herself in the evening, Benjamin wants to dump the kids on her again. They have a big fight about the kids. Sophia finally said, "I'm not going to watch your kids anymore on this vacation." Benjamin spent all the following days with his children, and we couldn't even take a normal walk with him. Sophia refused to sit with the children, even for 1 hour a day. She claimed that Benjamin's children were very annoying and ruined her vacation, so she wanted to spend the remaining 4 days without the children. My brother was very upset that his vacation had become all about childcare, while his wife was resting all the time. I tried to console Benjamin because it's great to spend time with children, but what could I prove to a man who wanted to sit by the sea with a glass of mojito and not think about anything? Instead, Benjamin sat by the sea and made sure his children were okay. The oldest of my brother's daughters was very upset that her stepmother treated her so badly. Charlotte cried several times because she felt like she was superfluous. My wife was able to stay with her and calm her down. The whole vacation had turned into a madness in which everyone put their own needs first, and the children were superfluous. My wife agreed to be with Benjamin's children sometimes. This saved the atmosphere a little, but it was not the answer. I believe that only my brother and his wife are to blame for this situation, although the two of them believe that they have no guilt for their actions. Lucas, your brother's vacation was not an easy one. It is understandable that tensions would arise under such circumstances. I can only imagine how difficult it must have been for Benjamin and Sophia to cope with 3 children of different ages, especially when they were hoping for a quiet vacation. But sometimes things can't go according to a plan, especially with children. It's a shame that the situation escalated to such an extent that Sophia felt overwhelmed and decided not to look after the children at all during the vacation. Balancing vacation and childcare can be incredibly difficult. It seems that this time they did not find the right balance, and this led to constant fights because family responsibilities were not structured correctly. In your brother's family, as a parent, I'm very sad to hear that. How did the children feel during the holidays, especially Charlotte? She felt like an outsider and was upset by her stepmother's behavior. It is very important for children's well-being that they feel that they are loved and participate in family activities. But Benjamin and Sophia's behavior was very stupid. I understand that they wanted to relax, but they shouldn't forget that they were traveling with their children, so they should have thought about more than just themselves. Good parents will never consider their children superfluous. Harper, it sounds to me like your brother and his wife may have jumped the gun on this trip. First, it would be helpful for Benjamin and Sophia to have an open and honest conversation about their expectations for family vacations in the future. They could discuss how best to balance vacation and responsibilities on childcare and make sure that the children feel valued and involved in family life. It is quite clear to me that your brother loves his children and he wants to give them a good time. But he should have thought that Sophia can't look after his children forever. And at some point, Benjamin will also need to sit with the children. I don't see anything wrong with that as a way to spend your whole day with your own children. In this situation, Benjamin should not resent Sophia. They just need to divide up the childcare days. I think it would have saved their vacation. My next story. I stayed in the States after my parents and brother flew to Norway to live with their Aunt Evelyn. My mom wanted me to get a good education and have good prospects for life. My family has lived in the United States for a very short time. Therefore, their English is at a basic level and it is difficult to have a long conversation with them. I have been living in America for 22 years now and have finished college here and have a good job. I also have a boyfriend, Mason, with whom we have been together for 1 year. During this time, we have not had a chance to visit my parents. Every time my mom or dad called me, I talked to them through an online translator. But this is not exactly what I would like. My education was focused only on work, and I didn't pay attention to language learning. My boyfriend Mason worked as an English teacher for 3 years. I thought that Mason could teach my family English, but you have to take time for it. My dad immediately rejected the idea when he heard that he would have to study 3 times a week. He says I is too old to understand anything. My mom was willing, but then changed her mind and refuses to learn English. I have a very flexible work schedule and don't always have a lot of time to myself, so I haven't even tried to learn another language after 10 years. I know only a few words of Norwegian, but it's not enough to talk to my parents. This year, I received an invitation from my brother to fly with my boyfriend to my parents' house for Christmas. It was a very cool offer in which I was very interested. My brother sent us the invitation 5 months before the holiday, so there was plenty of time to learn a little bit of their language. Because I knew for sure that my parents would not want to learn English, I talked to Mason and asked him to start learning Norwegian with me as well. However, my boyfriend said that he had important things to do in his workshop and would not be able to pay attention to learning the language. I was confused because learning a new language was not the easiest thing for me. Mason has much more talent than me. He is able to learn a lot of words and rules. For conversations in 4 months, I will barely know a few sentences at that time. It's easier for me to memorize the rules of quantum physics than to learn something from a new language. For a month, I talked to Mason to help him learn the language to a basic level. Mason told me that there was no need for us to learn anything because my brother Logan knows English and Norwegian, and he could easily act as an interpreter at the party. I told my boyfriend, if we come to my parents' house and are prepared with a partial knowledge of the language they speak, we can become more like family to them and show them respect. Mason did not want to agree with me on this point. He absolutely thinks that Logan's presence is enough at the party, especially since we are going to visit the whole family, and there will definitely be someone there who understands 2 languages, so they will translate the conversation for us. I continued to insist on my point and told Mason that he should do this at least for my sake. He disagreed, telling me that I was trying to make him feel guilty for not knowing Norwegian myself, and now I was forcing him to learn it when he didn't have much time. I stopped putting pressure on my boyfriend for a while. But after a while, I started talking to Mason about it again, because all my attempts to learn Norwegian were not working. In 1 month, I learned only 10 words. There were 3 months left before the trip, and none of us knew any Norwegian. I started telling Mason that we could study together if he wasn't comfortable doing it alone. Mason said it wasn't about comfort studying together or separately. Mason thinks he doesn't need to learn another language for my parents because he doesn't have to live with my parents for the rest of his life. Mason says it will be easier for me to teach your family English. Then I will learn their language. We started to fight about it because I started to think my boyfriend was lazy and unprepared for anything. Mason got angry at what I said, and Mason started saying that he would stop having a relationship with me if I kept making him learn Norwegian. My brother said that I had crossed the line and that there was nothing wrong with not knowing Norwegian. I think Logan said that to protect my boyfriend. Maybe I did cross the line, and I should apologize to Mason. Alexander, you are trying to overcome the language barrier and establish a closer connection with your family. I don't think that's a bad thing. I probably did the same thing as you, but in a more gentle way, because I understand that learning a new language, it can be difficult, especially if you're not naturally inclined to do so. For me, your situation is not the easiest. On the one hand, I can understand your frustration with Mason's reluctance to learn Norwegian, especially if it is necessary for your upcoming family visit. On the other hand, Mason may have his own reasons for not wanting to learn the language. You should ask him about his exact reasons for not wanting to. Perhaps Mason has some self-doubt, and you started to put pressure on him, putting him in a bad position. I think it's very important for you and Mason to talk calmly and understandingly about your feelings. Try to find a compromise that works for both of you. Apologize for any harsh words you may have said during the argument. This can also be a good step in building a relationship, because your decision to put pressure on Mason is not a good one. Men are sometimes like children, and you need to be kinder to them and not put them in an awkward position. Abigail, I don't understand why you are forcing your boyfriend to learn this language. Mason is a separate person from you and can do what he wants. He doesn't have to learn everything you say. The issue with your parents is entirely yours, so don't make Mason feel guilty. How would you feel if tomorrow Mason told you that you have to go to his cousin's house in a few weeks and you need to learn German? I think you would start thinking about all the things you have to do, and you are a very busy person, so you shouldn't blame Mason for not wanting to learn Norwegian. There will be people at the party who can help you with communication for your family. Take a breath and leave everyone around you alone. Emily, your brother is right, and you should apologize to Mason. It's just a trip for a few days, not an offer to live with your parents for a few years. In that case, language skills would be physically necessary. You caused a scandal and almost lost your boyfriend. Do you really think this is normal? Only children try to force someone to do what they want. Either you are a very stupid person, or you are very selfish and like everyone to do your bidding. Will your parents not love you if you don't know Norwegian? Your boyfriend is not to blame. You acted like a fool. A story that really surprised me. I have 3 children in my wonderful family. My wife Sophia takes care of my youngest son, who is 2 years old. Sophia and I have been married for a very long time and have 2 sons. Jackson is the oldest son and he is 11 years old. My middle son Sebastian is 10 years old. My boys are at school and have some difficulties in their relationships with each other. This is because my son Sebastian, who is a little younger than Jackson, is a good student, while Jackson does not want to study and says that school is not so important for him. I talked to my son a lot about this and tried to prove to him that without education, it will be difficult to have a good job and income. Jackson says that it doesn't concern him, and he can work as a mechanic or realtor without excellent grades. In a way, he's right, but I don't want my son to work in those jobs. So almost every week in our house there are quarrels about school. The older son often blames Sebastian for his good grades, and we compare Jackson to Sebastian. For example, my middle son is a good student and only has some difficulties with physical training. Jackson is a poor student, but has good grades in physical education. My children often quarrel for no reason. I even had to take Jackson to a psychologist because his behavior can cross the line. That week, we had a small conflict, which later gained considerable momentum. It all started when I decided to look at my son's academic results for the week in the evening after work. Sebastian's grade book was great, and he had several good grades. The teachers always praised my son for his attentiveness and aptitude for learning. The same cannot be said about Jackson. I don't know where he got his rebelliousness from his family. When I started to look at Jackson's progress, I saw nothing but a lot of bad grades and a few posts from teachers saying that my son was disruptive. It's not uncommon for me to be called into school because Jackson is disrupting other students' classes and not learning himself. That evening, I called Jackson in and asked him to explain why he had so many negative posts in his diary. Jackson said, "All the subjects in which I have a bad grade, I do not need for my future work." I objected to him and said, "Son, there are many things you may not know, but you should understand the basic subjects and not earn bad grades." Jackson continued to say that he was not interested and did not want to listen to me. I punished my son for not wanting to admit his faults and study properly. On the weekend, we were supposed to go to the local movie theater to see a new movie. I bought tickets for the whole family, but because Jackson was being punished, I didn't take him with me to the movie. He was very angry about this because he was the one who suggested going to the movie. I told Jackson that he would not go to the movie. Because of his disgusting behavior this week, Jackson started saying that we were being very unfair to Sophia and we should take him. I continued to explain to him that we could give him a ticket for the next time, only on condition if Jackson's behavior gets better and he studies. To this my son said, "I will not play your games. If you don't want to take me with you, then let it go." I was upset that Jackson reacted like that. I thought he would agree and promise to improve, but the plan didn't work and I had to fulfill my words. After a while, Sebastian came running to us in tears. I asked him what the problem was. Sebastian told me that Jackson came to his room and asked what movie they were going to see, and when Jackson took the ticket from Sebastian's hands. My older son tore Sebastian's ticket and started laughing. I went to my son Jackson's room to find out what he was doing. Jackson was lying on his bed and just crying. I walked in angry, but I couldn't yell at him or tell him to be punished again. I felt sorry for my son, and I didn't touch him that night. The next day, I did talk to Jackson about what he had done yesterday. Jackson said that Sophia and I had hurt his feelings and given him too much punishment so he couldn't help himself, and decided to punish Sebastian. I explained to him that the punishment was fair and was done to make Jackson think about his behavior. I tried to give my son a chance and told him, "Jackson, I'm ready to forgive you for these offenses, if you promised to do better now." He thought for a few seconds and said, "I will not submit to your selfish desires." Then I told Jackson that I was going to ban him from playing games on the console and that he would be at home for a month. Jackson got angry and said that I was the worst dad. I feel bad for saying that, but I don't know how to influence my son to study properly. My wife supported me and said that we can't just watch Jackson ruin his life. My mom learned about the conflict from Jackson's words. She says that we are too hard on her grandson and raise him like a trained dog. My mom called me a jerk and is forcing me to remove all punishments from my son. I think I shouldn't listen to her. I need an outside opinion. Camila, I completely understand the author's actions. I have 2 daughters who want to do what they want. It is difficult for me to negotiate with them and tell them what is good for them. They think their friends won't hurt them. So my girls trust their friends more than they trust me. You need to keep talking to Jackson and show him exact examples of what will happen to him if he doesn't start studying properly now. Even if your son resents you and your wife, you need to keep talking to Jackson. You may have to punish him sometimes, but that's all part of parenting. You will not always be a good dad to Jackson. Aria, you care very much about Jackson's education and future. Parenting can be hard, especially when you are dealing with a child who is not motivated to learn. I think it is very important to encourage Jackson to do well in school. It's also important to keep open communication with him. Try to have a heart-to-heart with Jackson to better understand his point of view. Find out what is causing his lack of interest in school and try to solve the underlying problems. This helped me a lot in my time because punishments can have the opposite effect. They can lead to resentment or rebellious behavior. Instead, consider positive reinforcement. When Jackson shows improvement in his learning, offer support, set achievable goals together, and reward his efforts. Perhaps Jackson just doesn't understand how to do his homework and is too shy to approach you. Try doing something with him. I'm glad your wife is supportive. The 2 of you should think about how best to handle the situation with Jackson. Your son cannot just say that he hates school and you. There are always problems somewhere inside.